have been charged over the double murder of General Wamala Katumba's daughter, Brenda Nantongo, and his driver, Haruna Kayondo, and the attempted assassination of the general. The charged persons are Hussein Ismail and
event of a botched attempted assassination of the former CDF and Minister of Works and Transport, General Edward Katumba Wamala, but instead the assassinators ended up gunning to death his daughter Brenda Nantongo and driver Haruna Kayondo on the 1st of June 2021. Police investigators since then have been held in watertight investigations involving reconstructing the scene of crime, reconstituting images of suspected assassinators based on narratives of eyewitnesses, interpretation of CCTV video footage of the suspected assassinators leaving the scene of crime. However, the outcomes of the investigations point to the two suspected men, namely Serubura Hussein Ismaili and Nyaz Yusuf Slaji. The two have been charged of the 2 counts, murder of Brenda and Haruna, as well as attempted assassination of the General Edward Katumba Wamala.
Why these ones were arrested is we got to several leads from witnesses that we narrowed and led to their arrest. So we had to have them charged to court.
While Nyaz and Siraje are under the safe custody of police, investigations pointing to more suspects are not over. According to police, there are more enriching and leading clues, widening the scope of investigations.
Additional suspects whom we are actually following or pursuing, and we believe, because now we have an identity, so we believe that these will be arrested as well.
Abdul Nasser Lobama, UBC News.
Senaka one magistrate court before Magistrate Singiza Douglas Karikona has charged and remanded Yusuf Nyanzi and Hussein Ismail on 2 accounts of attempted murder of General Katumba Wamala and the murder of his daughter and driver. The accused, who pleaded not guilty to the alleged offences, were later remanded to Chitalia Government Prison until the 3rd of August 2021. Deborah Namamonde has more.
At 11:30 a.m., 2 suspects, Yusuf Nyanzi, aged 46 years, a resident of Chanja village, and Serubura Hussein Ismail, aged 38, a resident of Nankuwadde Kabunga, Bulenga in Wakiso district, respectively, were read at Nakawa Grade 1 Magistrate Court to be charged. The 2 suspects who appeared before Chief Magistrate Dr. Nsingiza Douglas Karikona were charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Prosecution alleges that on 1st June 2021 at Kisasi Central Zone in Kampala District, Yusuf Nyanzi attempted to unlawfully cause the death of General Edward Katumba Wamala. Prosecution also contends that on 1st June 2021, Serubura Hussein Ismail murdered Nantongo Brenda, daughter to General Katumba Wamala, and Haruna Kayondo, his driver. Nyanzi and Serubura pleaded not guilty to the alleged charges. Prosecution led by Barbara Chomugisha State Anthony, after charge, informed the court that inquiries are still ongoing in this matter. Magistrate Dr. Singiza Douglas Karikona remanded the accused to Chitalia Government Prison until 3rd August 2021 for mention of the case. Geoffrey Tuliamusima is the lawyer for the accused persons.
If we can all remember, Yusuf Nyanzi was arrested early last week together with his son. And his son was later, after a day or 2, released without charging him. But what is good now is that our clients are safe, and we are going to do everything possible so that they can be released on bail. By tomorrow or the next day, we shall be informing the public and their family on the way forward, but we are believing that by Friday we would have at least filed the application for bail for both of them until we see justice prevail.
However, Tulia Msima, who did not attend court to represent his clients, accused prosecution on how they have handled this matter since the arrest of the accused persons.
We drove and we reached the lower court in Nakawa Chief Magistrate Court. Unfortunately, we found that they had been already arraigned and together being charged. It's unfortunate that the way they arrested them is not different from the way they sneaked them to Nakawa. Even when there was no judicial officer, they did everything possible for the judicial officer to appear. But what is good now is that our clients are safe, they are alive, and we are going to do everything possible so that
General Edward Katumba Wamala's daughter Nantongo Brenda and his driver Aluna Kayondo were murdered in cold blood in Kisasi Wachiso district. Deborah Namamonde, Nantongo Rebecca, UBC News.
Meanwhile, police in Kasese is investigating circumstances under which a businessman was shot to death. An LC1 chairperson has associated the assailant to a border rider who was donned in a UPDF uniform exiting the scene of crime hurriedly. However, police spokesperson for Nzori East ASP Nelson Tumushime has confirmed the incident but reveals investigations are still underway.
It is alleged that Isaac Komakech, a 40-year-old businessman, was shot last night at 8 p.m. at his shop in Nyabubare village, Karusandara sub-county, Hima division, Kasese district. The LC1 chairperson of Nyabubare village, Sam Kahigwa, says he had bullets, but on his way to inquire the cause of the shooting of bullets, he came across an identified border rider dressed in an army uniform, riding at a terrible speed. Gideon Chichonjo, a resident, says since 2015, 5 people have died in similar circumstances, which is creating fear among the residents.
We had police nearby police station. For sure, we would try to arrest them because one of them, the one whom we detected that is the one who shot. After people were here, very many, we are more than many. So we had a motorcycle starting just around there. It came, because
Santos Tumwine, the district councillor, Karusandara sub-county, expressed concern about the security lapses in the area. He says police and UPDF are far from where the crime was committed.
Either police post, police banonye UPDF detach, but take one eberenge tuyambe milimo gyabo. Kubanga kuva no kutuka kugombola Karusandara kumuntu wawa wala ate genda Hima Steve wala chokale batera kukagitacha okayinza kutuyamba.
The public relations officer for Nzori East ASP Nelson Tumushime confirmed the incident but said police has started investigations into the cause of the death of the businessman.
Believed that the shooting occurred at 8 p.m. and the businessman was following his business. Investigations into the alleged murder are ongoing.
Now, as part of its efforts to enforce the lockdown and to curtail the spread of COVID-19 in the Greater Kampala metropolitan area, police has impounded thousands of vehicles of those in breach of the presidential directive on restrictive movements. Now, police mounted several roadblocks at the outskirts of the central business district of Kampala, as well as using mobile apps to ascertain which vehicle has been cleared by the licensing body at Ministry of Works and Transport to be on the road.
There are several reasons why police may impound a car. Perhaps the car's driver has accumulated too many unpaid traffic tickets, and if a driver gets pulled over upon suspicion of being under the influence of drugs or alcohol, the officer... However, in today's move by police to impound the over 1,000 vehicles, none of the above applied, but a notice had been to enforce the presidential directive on restrictions of movement in line with COVID-19 standard operating procedures. Many whose cars were impounded were served with an impoundment notice, which calls for a tow truck to take the vehicle away to a storage facility. Under the impoundment notice, one has to pay the towing and the storage fees before he or she can get a vehicle back, or the vehicle be impounded for 28 days. The other category of road users who fell victims were motorists who were entering Kampala city. Their motorcycles, like vehicle owners, were impounded on account that they never possessed stickers upon verification. In accordance with the presidential directive and COVID-19 SOPs, Ministry of Health adopted by the 10th Parliament, vehicle owners and motorists could be charged in court for violation of quarantine and restriction of movement regulations 2020. The statement that police is basing on to prefer criminal charges against the defaulters say the lockdown order restriction movement and other social, religious and economic activities in all affected and closing inter-district border crossing is strictly enforced from the time it was declared. However, the local leaders have appealed to road users who do not fall in the category of essential workers to obey the set COVID-19 guidelines by the Ministry of Health and the presidential directive on lockdown to avoid clashing with security agencies enforcing the directives.
Ugandans, those who foot from your homes to towns, if you don't have anything to do in town, please don't go. You stay home. People who are coming to towns every time, you're making our police officers fight because they are chasing you out of town, because it's your life. It's not someone's life.
We can visit the RDC officers and LC1 chairpersons, then we fake sickness. You see a number of people flocking in the town, yet this is a war.
Saddam Mubale, Joel Vubia, UBC News.
And police in North Choga have raised 2.8 million shillings in form of penalties from motorists who were found violating the presidential directives on controlling the spread of COVID-19. This resulted from charges that police issued after impounding motorcycles and vehicles last week in the districts of Otuke, Hoyam, Dokolo and Lira.
Following the resurgence of COVID-19 in the country, sectors and the lockdown by President Museveni on the 18th of June 2021, several directives were also issued in a bid to curb down the spread of COVID-19. Among others were observance of curfew, restraint of movements of private cars and border borders to carry only cargo and to stop operation by 5 p.m. However, this has not been observed by most Ugandans. Police in North Kyoga, in their operations to enforce presidential directives, impounded over 46 motorbikes and 14 private vehicles.
You find someone carrying 2 or 3 people on a motorcycle. I don't think a sick person or sick people can sit in that category. It's unfortunate. So it's quite alarming, and we need support from the members of the public. This is not the fight for security. It's the fight of all of us.
Jimmy Patrick Hokema, the North Kyoga police spokesperson, said the perpetrators were apprehended and later released after paying a fine to the government account.
We encourage members of the public to desist from act of giving money to our officers, as well as reporting those errand officers to the supervisors so that we handle them.
A total of 2,780,000 was raised in the operation. 240,000 from Otuhe district, 480,000 from Oyam, 160,000 from Doholo, and 1.9 million from Lira.
And this is a sign that there are so many other people who are defying, but they're running away. Besides, we also realize through public complaint, which does not come formally to supervisors, is that there is aspects or elements of extortion.
However, some border-borders who preferred anonymity said most times they are forced by anger to breach the presidential directive just to look for survival, while others we found at the stage decried lack of luggage to carry. Jimmy Ochen, a border rider in Lira City, said they have now resorted to selling their belongings to service the loan. In March last year, during the first lockdown, President Museveni directed banks and other money-lending institutions as well as landlords to suspend their demands for payment from those who owe them. However, this time round, nothing has been said in that regard. Eddie Olwa, UBC News.
Now, police is investigating particular local council chairpersons who have overstepped their mandate and are now issuing unlawful travel certificates to people contrary to the COVID-19 standard operating procedures on the partial lockdown. Our reporter has more.
Abuse of office under Section 46 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act 2011 means a person is guilty of an offence if he or she uses his or her office to improperly award a benefit to him or herself or another person. Based on this legal provision, Uganda Police Force is considering holding many LOC chairpersons in contempt of the law.
They warned the local council one chairpersons who are abusing their power through the issuance of local clearances to the public to move from one place to another.
Police wants powers of village chairpersons revoked over misuse in the COVID-19 lockdown situation. According to police, local council chairpersons are issuing unwanted travel certificates based on extortion, which is complicating the enforcement of the presidential directive on restriction of movements.
And under circumstances where the reasoning is not under an emergent situation or even being essential.
Despite the concern of police, while releasing preventative measures against the spread of COVID-19, LOCs and RDCs were empowered with the responsibility of issuing travel certificates, especially to emergencies like sick people. Based on insurance, one should question the concerns of police.
We are told most of these rich people have been parting with some money, so some bit of extortion has also been taking place at that level. So we have gathered these local clearance letters and we are going to forward them to the interagency task force so that these powers, if deemed defeat, are either withdrawn or action taken against the LCs who are culprits.
However, some territorial commanders are cautioned over laxity, which is likely to water down the struggle to control the spread of the pandemic. These have been directed to apply necessary tactical procedures.
And also in the remote places, if you start going out of Kampala, a radius of about 5 kilometers, some of the trading centers that are inward don't follow the 7 p.m. curfew restriction and timing. You find shops still operating up to 8 and 9, and this one encourages more people to continue being out in public and even more bars to continue operating.
In the enforcement of the preventative measures, police last week arrested 1,445 people, impounding 633 vehicles and 3,884 motorcycles.
With sister security agencies, and some of these sister agencies or stakeholders that, like KCCA, who are supposed to work with us, are not at the forefront, and yet they have a major role to play together with URA. So this calls for better coordination.
Reckless drivers and riders still pose a challenge to security operatives on different checkpoints while enforcing restricted movements as per the presidential directives.
That still we have complaints of motorists and border borders not respecting.
With cross-border movements, The Ministry of Internal Affairs has suspended issuing of passports for 42 days, recommend its clients to access
their appointments once the 42 days are elapsed. So meaning that if you have an appointment, you cannot come. Just wait. You cannot come and you can't schedule. You can't reschedule.
Abdul Nasir Lubrama, UBC News.
The new Minister of Defence and Veteran Affairs, Vincent Pamulanga Chisempija, has this evening received the instruments of power from his predecessor, Adolf Mwesige. Sempija was flanked by the new State Minister for Defence and Veteran Affairs, Jacob Oboth-Oboth, who also received instruments of power from Colonel Charles Engola Okello at the Ministry of Defence Headquarters in Mbuya. The event was graced by the General Wilson Mbadi and other service chiefs.
On behalf of the UPDF fraternity and on my own behalf, and on behalf of the outgoing CDF, who is not able to be here, we are delighted by the new appointments. But we're also delighted by
the Commander-in-Chief has always given us a lot of support in making sure that we get resources to support the UPDF and security in general, but also bearing in mind that the general resource envelope is constrained. And whenever we explain to our people, to our commanders, to the rank and file, they're able to appreciate the challenges that the country is facing. We have major pending issues, Honourable Minister, which we will tackle as a matter of priority. As the PS correctly said, the security and CDF, the security situation in the country, of course, is good. And that gives us a lot of pride for us as ministers who have worked in this ministry, who have worked to support UPDF. It gives us a lot of pride to see that this country has no trace, has no pocket of insurgency.
On behalf of my friends, to assure all of you that we are here to build a team, to work together with everybody. We know a few things about society. God has put us here today, so we need to use this opportunity to add to the building blocks of this very important ministry.
The second mass vaccination exercise of AstraZeneca has kicked off today in the Greater Kampala metropolitan area with fair turn-up of people. While the turn-up was fair in Kampala, the exercise started late at many designated vaccination centres. The second mass vaccination targets individuals that received their first jab and are due for the second, such as health workers, teachers and the elderly.
The mass vaccination of COVID-19 in Uganda has commenced today, with people receiving their second jab. UBC TV managed to visit some of the vaccination centers here in Kampala. At some vaccination centers, Nakawa Division and Kololo Airstrip, the vaccines arrived late. Past noon, the exercise had not started, with a number of people waiting.
Drugs came a bit late, but finally I've received my second vaccination and I'm fine.
A little bit early this morning, but up to now we have not got, and nobody to tell us what is happening, but we are just waiting.
Vaccines arrived in time and a big number of people were vaccinated. They shared their experience on receiving the second jab after a number of...
I've not felt anything. I will not start claiming that anything is happening. I think so far so good. I've not felt anything.
Those who were lucky to complete the AstraZeneca vaccine dose appealed to those in the struggle to complete the second dose to disregard social media reports about the jab.
Contrary to what we've been having in this social media, Smanyi, you have this thing, you fall sick or something like that. I think I want to encourage everybody to come and have these vaccines. I want to believe that government doesn't have a hidden agenda. Let people just come.
There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm encouraging every Ugandan out there to please come and take this advantage while others are on the way.
The other alternative is to have this corona attacking you, and if you have seen some of the clips on social media, you don't want to be in that situation, and you start regretting how I wish I had taken the jab.
The AstraZeneca vaccine is among the many vaccines used to counter the further infection of COVID-19 virus in human bodies. Jane Ngiramchisha, UBC News in Kampala.
Kampala Capital City Authority is about to offer full support to the Ministry of Health in the vaccination process. The support will be in terms of capacity building and transportation of vaccines to different destinations. Let's take a look.
Kampala Capital City Authority has laid out a plan of working with the Ministry of Health to ensure city dwellers are fully vaccinated. The authority will offer human capacity to doctors who are to carry out the vaccination exercise during the lockdown. The Deputy Director Administration Kampala Capital City Authority Abel Mugulu said that the health officials are overwhelmed and they are the reserve force to offer assistance in transportation, capacity building, among other services. Receiving 1,500 litres of fuel from Nile Breweries to the COVID-19 task force to ease transportation of teams in the distribution of vaccines, contact tracing in the central areas that have greatly been hit by the pandemic.
We are going to ensure that the various teams, the surveillance team, the teams that are tracing the COVID-19 suspects, the teams that are going to sensitize the public, the security teams that are enforcing the directives will benefit from this fuel. And just as Oliver Twist said, we need more.
The 1,500 litres is an addition of 1,000 litres given to Jinja District, 1,000 litres given to Wikwe, and 1,500 litres to Mbara, totaling to 550 litres of fuel.
COVID-19 has crippled not only many countries, but also Uganda as well. And we as Nile Breweries believe that the private sector has a part to play in society. We are not only about trade, but we are also about making a difference in our communities.
Have a number of activities going on to respond to the vulnerable in the city, to enforce the SOPs as per the presidential directive, and everything moves on well and we deliver service to the people. So when we receive such donation, we appreciate with all our hearts, and we continually say, call upon other people to follow suit.
The resident city commissioner Hudu Hussein, commending Nile Breweries for their assistance in boosting the health sector, said they will enroll the vaccines in adherence to the standard operating procedures set by government. With the country having received 175,200 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines that were donated by France under the COVAX program, KCCA is to receive 57,480 of the vaccines. Vaccination exercise will take place at venues easily accessible such as schools and polling stations in Kampala. Meanwhile, Mbara Regional Referral Hospital has received equipment worth 170
million shillings and 100 million shillings for construction of the COVID-19 treatment center from Massachusetts General Hospital to aid in the fight against COVID-19. Massachusetts Hospital has also pledged to enroll some of the health workers treating COVID-19 on salary for 6 months.
Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital is among the referrals identified by government to handle acute COVID-19 cases, though it has registered setbacks of COVID-19 patients succumbing to the disease. Despite working under intense pressure and sometimes using limited medical equipment, health workers at the hospital have continued to stick to their work ethics by treating COVID-19 patients. The General Hospital of Massachusetts has donated Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital with medical equipment, including personal protective gears worth 170 million, in addition to the 100 million that was donated during the construction of the COVID-19 treatment center.
So the challenge right now in front of us is to make this building, this COVID treatment center, operational so that by July the 1st we can open and start accepting patients.
The new COVID-19 treatment center will have a capacity of 43 beds and non-stop oxygen supply.
We want to pray and hope that even if we can save one life, it will be one of the many more that will be inspiring for everyone and give hope to our people in this region. But we must remember that we cannot treat ourselves out of this epidemic. We have to pray that we get vaccines and these vaccines go to the right people.
According to Dr. Celestine Barije, the Mbarara Hospital Director, they lose at least 4 people per day due to COVID-19. The cases have continued to surge, which has put pressure on their beds in the ICU section.
Therefore, I must say that for me, I'm again excited to see that this thing we started, the construction, we are now putting it, we are opening it, and to serve the public, serve the purpose of which it was constructed.
Despite the donation, officials from the same US-based hospital have also pledged to enroll some of the COVID-19 treatment health workers on payroll for 6 months.
Well, with that, we take a quick break. When we return, more details. This is News Tonight.
As the financial year 2020-2021 draws to an end, URA has put measures in place to facilitate taxpayers to file their returns and pay taxes within the set deadline. All our offices across the country and the URA Contact Center shall remain open to provide extra support to our esteemed payers. Additionally, we have extended our contact center service hours from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Friday and from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays and public holidays. In light of the COVID-19 risks, we encourage taxpayers to reach us through our improved contact center and other online platforms instead of making physical visits to our offices. For online support, please reach us through our toll-free lines 0800 117 000 or 0800 217 000. Email services@ura.go.ug. Website ura.go.ug. Social media: Facebook, URA page, Twitter @URA Uganda. URA Customs Help Tool, help.ura.go.ug/login. URA appreciates all taxpayers who have duly fulfilled their obligations. Stay safe and let us all observe the standard operating procedures to prevent further spread of the COVID-19 virus. Stay safe as we develop Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Senchu points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear a mask properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we learn, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Welcome back. You are still watching News Tonight. Over 500 people in Gulu City have received COVID-19 jabs in the second phase of the vaccination. The start of the phase 2 exercise was conducted at Gulu Regional Referral Hospital, at St. Mary's Lachor Hospital, Awi Health Center 3, Laro Health Center 3, and Awach Health Center 4.
Janan Loom, Bishop, the regional COVID-19 surveillance officer, says phase 2 of vaccination has come in Gulu.
And the exercise has started on smoothly. We expect the first cycle of the vaccine distributed, because I know Amoro received 300 doses, and Noyas received 300 doses, Amoro received 320 doses, Lamoa received 472 doses, and Agago also received 300 doses. So we expect all this to be, since the turn-up is high, we expect to conclude this before the end of the week.
1,290 doses were delivered in Gulu district and city. The PM Thomas, who took his second jab at St. Mary's Hospital, Lacho, is urging other Ugandans to embrace the vaccine.
And this, to me, it is something which is fulfilling, because this COVID is real. The issues that are coming up, that the COVID vaccine is not okay, to me, I think it is rubbish. I really request Ugandans and everybody to vaccinate, because when we vaccinate, it is when we shall be able to scale down this COVID-19. So it is when we all vaccinate, we build up our immunity together and fight against this pandemic disease.
However, priority is being given to people who are due for the second dose.
This time around, we are only targeting the people who are due for second dose, as per the guideline given by the minister.
Gulu District Acting Health Officer Dr. Kenneth Kana revealed that 5 health workers have died in Gulu since the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak in March 2020. Adiana Kute, UBC.
To miss out on the vaccination exercise. According to the District Chief Administrative Officer Dastan Balaba, the district only received 2,970 doses of the expected 8,970 doses.
Upon hearing that the district had received the second batch of COVID-19 vaccines, thousands of people from Tororo turned up for the second jab at various health facilities across the district to get their last doses. At Tororo Main Hospital, for instance, as early as 7 a.m., hundreds had already gathered at the facility to receive their last jab. Those we talked to say they did not want to miss out like they did a few weeks ago.
Actually, as the president said, there is not yet in large numbers in Uganda. So we feared. Number two, we have realized that corona is a true disease. It is very deadly. It is killing people. So that is the only way how we can prevent ourselves.
My worry was, I saw all my neighbors there. They are sick, children are sick, others are dying. So I was worried. I said, they always tell us that when you are 50 and above, when it attacks you, you can die. So I was worried, according to my age.
But as vaccination exercise kicks off, the communication was made shortly that only those 50 years and above are the ones to be vaccinated, since the district only received 2,970 doses of the expected 8,970 doses of the second AstraZeneca vaccines. This did not go well with the lower age bracket, who went back castigating government.
This is I can say it is serious. It doesn't know the age, it doesn't know any other thing. Now, if they say that they're only looking at the old, then I think it's really a disappointment to the young people.
We need to be considered first as the youths. I don't know why in most cases young people's issues are taken for granted in this county. So we need the people who are in charge of these programs to consider young people, just because we are the leaders of today. So if the leaders of today die now, where are we going to get the leaders now?
According to the district technical heads, the decision to have only the mentioned age being considered is due to their high level of vulnerability to the virus.
We must first of all deal with the categories of health workers, because these are the ones who are at very high risk. Deal with those who are above 50 years, because those have reached some advanced level and their immunity is low. And then also deal with those with the various ailments like diabetes, asthma, high blood pressure, HIV/AIDS.
It is here that the district heads reveal the number of people who are most likely to miss out in the vaccination.
We are only going to deal with the health workers and all those who are above 50 years, and those who have got ailments above 18 plus years. For the teachers, we are not going to deal with them, but when we get more vaccines, even the teachers will be vaccinated.
With over 6,000 people who were due for the second vaccination said to miss out, we tasked the district health head to explain what this means to the affected individuals.
We are giving a period of 8 to 12 weeks. That's 2 to 3 months. And I feel we are still within that range. So people should not get worried. Once you receive vaccines, we are going to vaccinate all of you.
Connie, however, appeals to those who got chance to have all the 2 doses is not a guarantee that one is 100% safe from COVID-19 after vaccination.
It doesn't mean that when you are vaccinated, you will not get the virus. You only get the mild kind of the infection. These vaccines will help you to prevent that severity. Even if you have it, you may have a mild fever, a mild headache, but you will get better before you know it, other than a person who has not received it.
Currently, Toro District has so far registered 2,140 cumulative cases of COVID-19 positives, with 23 deaths.
And Iganga district has only considered health workers in the second phase of the mass vaccination against COVID-19. The circular to the residents was to the effect that only health workers who are taking their second jab should be considered.
Residents in Iganga have turned up in big numbers for the second phase of COVID-19 vaccination exercise, but only health workers were considered on the first day, unlike other parts of the country that have vaccinated all Ugandans, irrespective of the category. One of the vaccination centers in Iganga main hospital, people of different categories turned up, but were not considered, save for the health workers who were completing their second dose, were priority. Most hurting were people who are not health workers, who were turned away after waiting for long hours in vain. The Iganga main hospital medical superintendent, Dr. James Wako, said that they only considered health workers because they were following the presidential guidelines.
Those ones who got the first dose, but beginning with the health workers. After we have given the second dose to health workers, we are now going to prioritize those ones who are also given the first dose, but they are what? vulnerable, especially the elderly.
The Iganga District Vice Chairperson, Halid Mokacha, appealed to the public to embrace the exercise if more doses are brought.
The doses that were sent to the district were very few. It was 1,550 around there. So it can't accommodate the 500 and the 5,300 plus. By getting information from the central government, they are going to bring another consignment.
Some of the people vaccinated said that they completed the dose to protect themselves from the deadly disease.
Come and complete the second dose. However, I got the first dose and there was no anything. So I call upon the public to respond and come and get the second dose. Even though
Meanwhile, patients suffering from different diseases fled hospital beds, fearing to contract the COVID-19 pandemic. Wards, which used to be full of patients suffering from different diseases, are currently empty.
And Bundibugyo district has today registered 47 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the cumulative cases to 154. Since the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, the district has registered 90 cases. However, trajectory curve into the recoveries indicates the district has registered 64 recoveries. Meanwhile, cumulative deaths since the second wave is 5, while today the district registered 1 new death. However, at the moment, the district has 95 active cases. Earlier, we spoke to the ICT Minister, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, on government interventions in the fight against COVID-19. Let's take a look at that again.
We held the first cabinet meeting in this Sanja related to the discussion on COVID-19 response. And we discussed generally the funding for the response because we have a crisis in our hands, as the President communicated last time. And tomorrow at 11 a.m. we shall hold a press briefing where we shall go into detail. But I can say we basically discussed a range of issues to do with the funding of the health response, because there have been issues of need for oxygen and strengthening management, recruitment of health workers, and ensuring that we are on top of the situation. So we have approved monies to support the Ministry of Health to be able to contain the disease. We've also approved the monies to address the relief aspects, because you recall the President in his communication directed that government should assess the vulnerable people, particularly those who have lost employment because of the measures which have been announced. And I have to stress that those who were working, particularly in urban areas, and they depend on their daily incomes, and because of the lockdown and restriction measures, they are unable to work and therefore have no income. We also approved money to give them relief support, money also to strengthen communication so that we are able to relay the messages and communicate to the public, because in preventing this COVID crisis, communication and dissemination are crucial, and also not support areas of enforcement of the measures by supporting security agencies. And therefore we're discussing the overall comprehensive response and also the budgetary implications. And the Minister of Finance has been tasked to mobilize money from the budget so that we can fund the response.
This is still news tonight. An elderly man of 104 years old, Eldad Mwanje Mwesije, has taken vows with a 50-year-old Christine Nantumbwe in a wedding ceremony that left many residents of Bajo in Seta in shock. The Seventh-day Adventist believers who witnessed the nuptials shared their perception about the marriage. However, others alleged that Nantumbwe had been brought as a housemaid to Mr. Mwanje at Mr. Mwanje's home, but he insisted on having her as a wife.
Eldad Mwanje Mwesije found difficulties to get out of the car when it was time to enter the church because he had just been discharged from hospital. Old man Eldad Mwanje Mwesije, aged 104, a resident of Bajo in Seta, a Kampala suburb, has surprised many after he decided to take vows with a 50-year-old Christine Nantumbwe. Eldad Mwanje Mwesije found difficulties to get out of the car when it was time to enter the church because he had just been discharged from hospital. Salongo Richard Nsereko, a brother-in-law to Eldad Mwanje, says he had never seen any kind of a wedding like this, but he is happy because his sisters got a man to marry.
Imbaga bweti yesoose era nsuubira nga mukama ye mubeezi n'endala nnyingi zikyasobola okubaawo.
Some of the believers of Seventh-day Adventism say they wanted to get Eldad a housemaid to help him with the domestic work at home, but to their surprise, Eldad insisted on having Nantumbwe as a wife.
N'abaana n'abazzukulu nakabirye n'abazzukulu nakasatwe.
The best man found they had the time to take back the bridegroom into the car after he suffered a muscle pull, and he failed to board the car until he got a third party to help him board the car.
To improve quality assurance and Uganda's competitiveness as a tourist destination, Uganda Tourism Board is set to undertake a nationwide grading and classification exercise of hotel and accommodation facilities. As a member of the East African community, Uganda subscribes to the East African Grading and Classification Criteria, a system denoted by stars ranging from 1 to 5. The grading and classification exercise will be crowned by the awarding of star ratings to facilities found compliant to the EAC minimum standards. This is therefore to all accommodation and facility owners and managers to register and get .utb.go.ug or email qualityassurance@utb.go.ug for details. Uganda Tourism Board, promoting tourism together.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, telecommunication. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
And now in business news, the Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, has appealed to the newly sworn-in ministers in President Museveni's government to focus on the fight against corruption, whose entrenched roots have affected service delivery to many Ugandans. Mayiga made the remarks as the Bulange Best government passed the Buganda Kingdom budget for the financial year 2021-22.
Buganda Kingdom has passed its budget for the financial year 2021-2022 of 121 billion shillings, and Ruchiko members attended via Zoom to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Robert Nsibira, the Buganda Treasurer, has read the budget and highlighted three major issues on which emphasis has to be put.
Ebinaakolebwa nga birambikiddwa mu mbalirira ya omwaka 2022 byesigamiddwa ku nnamutaayika gye tulimu eya 2018-2023.
He says, despite of COVID-19 pandemic that has affected people's income, no single organization of Buganda Kingdom has closed. Addressing the Ruchiko, Katikkiro Charles Peter Mayiga appealed to the newly sworn-in ministers in the central government to focus on fighting corruption, a cancer that has riddled service delivery to many Ugandans.
Who identify underrepresented, and they go and buy pieces of land in those areas, and they turn out to demand huge amounts of money in compensation. They're government officials. The truth is that it's not the Miloland system that the problem is, because we've witnessed development in Uganda since the Miloland system was introduced. These problems, the 7 problems, started around the 1990s, the 2000s, and if they are addressed, there should be no problems at all. The problem is not the Miloland, the problem is not Buganda land.
Mayiga also says that the new cabinet of President Museveni should prioritize more job creation, fighting for human rights, among other developmental issues.
To ensure medical supplies in all hospitals, including medical equipment, reasonable payment to medical workers.
However, Mayiga could not exit the podium without calling upon Ugandans to go and be vaccinated against the deadly COVID-19 virus.
We should avoid social media propaganda, which gives us all sorts of wrong information on COVID-19. 10, we should listen to the Ministry of Health, the World Health Organization, and the leaders. Number 11, we should avoid self-medication.
Meanwhile, only 12 members attended the Ruchiko physically, while others followed via Zoom to avoid the spread of COVID-19. Jane Ingramsha, Andrew Sebira, UBC News.
Well, that does it for news tonight. Thank you for sticking with us throughout the hour. Our sign language interpreter, Elizabeth Nakakuni. I am Rod Ngonzi. Do have yourselves a lovely night.